Thanks for tuning in to another episode of S&M Radio. I'm Shanon.
And I'm Mark.
And we're going to be talking about this time our second annual visit to the great horror convention in Chicago, which happened last weekend, which was Flashback Weekend.
It was great. It was surreal. It was really, really, really cool. That was a fun time.
So this time around started almost exactly the same as it did last year. So for those of you that remember last year, when we talked about it, there was a little bit of different. We met up at the same spot that we met up last year. This time we met up, I think it was probably closer to, I would say like a half an hour, maybe an hour later than we met up last year.
We did get there early last year because I remember we were like first in line for the tickets.
Right. Yeah. And so this year we got there pretty much right when they were supposed to start selling tickets for the day. Of course, I think it was the same thing with last year. They didn't start selling tickets until closer till it was time to open the doors. But last year we walked in and you about freaked out. You're like, "Oh my God, it's Dick Warlock!"
Yeah, because I've been following, the guys who played Michael Myers, and if all of you who don't know, Dick Warlock is the actor and stuntman who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2, the 1981 version. And it was really, really weird to walk into a hotel and then to see standing there in the lobby Dick Warlock talking to some people. That's the cool thing about Flashback is these people are super, super, super accessible. I mean, this isn't like, waiting in a line to get into a room, to get behind a curtain, to go through security, and shake a hand and get kicked out. This is like, these people are like right up in front, right all around you, and it's really weird to see people that you've watched in the movies since you were a little kid.
Yeah, so we were standing in line waiting to get our tickets. Amy Steele walked by us going into the convention, and similar to the same thing that happened last year with Dick Warlock, you were like, "Oh my God, it's Amy Steele!" So I thought it was pretty funny. And we'll get to Amy Steele here in just a minute, but I thought it was funny to where you were just like, "Oh my God!" And I think like probably 2 hours later, maybe it was like 3 hours later, I think you had finally come to the realization that these are just real people, just like us.
Yeah, and that is so weird to think of them that way, Yeah, and they look like real people too, which is weird.
Well, there's a few of them that really haven't aged well. I mean, unfortunately, there was a couple of people here again this year that if you didn't know who it was, by like having their name and there's their picture on a banner behind them that says like Friday the 13th Part 5, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember who that was." But, I mean, it was kind of the same thing last year. We saw a couple of people there that we were like, "Who the heck is that?" And then you were like, "Really?" And there was a few people there that was there this year that was kind of the same way. And as far as the crowd goes, I mean, we went on Sunday again, the same as we did last year. So the crowd wasn't bad at all. At least I didn't think it was. I don't even think
it wasn't bad at all.
For even once it got going and everybody was signing autographs and stuff, I don't really think there was anybody that really had that bad of a line for autographs and stuff. I mean, I didn't see anybody that was more than a couple of people deep. Not to say that there wasn't people getting autographs. There was people at for the most part, everybody's table getting autographs. The celebrity lineup this year was not as good as it has been in years past. One of the things they've been doing the past couple of years is they've been trying to do these sort of like reunion type shows. Like last year was this gigantic Halloween reunion. So it was a bunch of different celebrities from pretty much almost all of the Halloween movies. And then this year, their big thing was the Scream 20th anniversary reunion.
Yeah.
And they had 3 of the people from Scream there. So they had Neve Campbell, Matthew Lillard, and Skeet Ulrich were there, who I didn't see the Skeet Ulrich guy at all, I don't think.
I did see him. I think we did pass him when we were doing our walkthrough. I think the first walkthrough. He had a hat on, and he was looking down at his phone. He was just playing with his phone.
Oh, okay. Okay, that explains it. And then another thing that we talked about last year, same thing was this year, is that these autographs that these guys, for the most part, are charging is not bad for conventions. And one of the things, I don't know if you saw this, I know we kind of talked about it, but the lady who runs this convention, her name is Mia Kurz. She does a really good job on Facebook and the website of for Flashback Weekend as well. You know, making updates and different posts and things like that. But on her Facebook page, on her personal Facebook page, and then on the Facebook page for Flashback Weekend, they always post updates before they make it to the site. And then she will post like updates on her page, like before they make it to the convention website, or I should say the convention Facebook page. And one of the things that she did this year, from getting feedback from other years, was she put together a price schedule for what people were going to be charging for autographs. And for the most part, I think the majority of the celebrities that were there were charging right around $25 for an autograph, which isn't bad for that compared to other conventions. The 3 folks from the Scream movie, Neve Campbell, Matthew Lillard, and Skeet Ulrich, those guys were charging, Neve Campbell was charging, I think it was $75, and then the other 2 guys were charging $50 a piece, I believe. And then I think the Matthew Lillard guy, who was, you guys would know him as Scooby, or not Scooby, but Shaggy from Scooby-Doo as well, from the live-action Scooby-Doo movie. He was charging the $50, and then it was like another $30 if you wanted a selfie at his booth, to where Neve Campbell was charging $75, and there was no option to get a selfie at her booth. You had to do the photo op, which was like another $80. And there was a lot of people that were like, oh my God, these prices are ridiculous. And there was one guy on there that replied to the post and said, you guys want to know what's ridiculous is I went to Comic-Con, and I don't know if he was talking about this year or if it was like last year or whatever, but he made the comment on there that he paid $1,400 to get the Avengers autographs.
Oh my God.
I know. So, coughing up $25 doesn't seem too bad.
Was that like $5 more than last year? Seemed like, I thought I remembered it being 20. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I think it was, for the most part. It was like 20 last year, I think is what you paid for a couple of them. I went to Walker Stalker Con that is literally across the street from Flashback Weekend earlier this year, and everybody there was charging like $50, $60, $70, and a lot of them were doing that where no photos at the booth, or $50 for the autograph and another $20 for a selfie that you're taking with your own phone. But
see, that's really lame. That's why the Flashback Weekend is great, because you get to, I mean, that's just the fact that you get to chat with the people and take a picture with them for free is just, that's awesome. After hearing, like, I've never been to any other conventions, and after hearing about some of that, like, I don't know that I'd ever want to go to a different, like one of the bigger ones, like Comic-Con or Walker Stalk or anything where there's like, like, I don't know. It just seems like it's just nobody's accessible, or it's cost too much. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some other good horror conventions too, like similar to Flashback in other areas, which we should probably look into.
Yeah, there's one that I think it's in multiple locations. I think it's one of these that they have kind of like the Horror Hound one, whatever, Horror Hound Weekend or whatever it is called.
Right.
That one's like it's like in Indianapolis, like in the fall or the spring, and then it's in like Cleveland, I think. In the other, either in the fall or, they flip flop. It's twice a year. But there's this other convention. I think it's called Days of the Dead.
Yeah, I heard about that one.
Yeah, and there is one that's in Chicago, but then there's another one. I think it's in Louisville.
Okay.
And I've heard that one is really good to go to. And they usually have, not that Flashback Weekend hasn't had their fair share of big-name celebrities in the horror world. I mean, Malcolm McDowell was there this year. Neve Campbell was there this year. They had Robert Englund last year. I think that was last year. Or maybe, no, 2 years ago. Robert Englund was 2 years ago. John Carpenter was there a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But the one, when I was looking at the Days of the Dead or Day of the Dead or whatever it's called in Louisville, there is... Like this year, it's like I think it's a Nightmare on Elm Street type kind of reunion where there's a bunch of different people from like there, and it didn't seem like they have some of their prices up, like the ticket prices and some of that stuff, and it didn't seem too bad. Like it was sort of relative to what Flashback would be, but I don't know what autographs and stuff cost there, but. And me personally, I mean, I don't have anything against, like, you got a couple autographs this year, you got a couple autographs last year, and that's totally fine. I mean, I don't have any problem with people getting the autographs. I'm opposed to getting them, mainly because the first time I went, which I think was in 2011 or 2012, one of the two, I think, and I got Danielle Harris's autograph, Kane Hodder's autograph, and I have the DVD that I had Kane Hodder sign on my little shelf that's right next to where I'm recording. The Danielle Harris one, I have no idea where it's at. And like what you got the, whatever they are, the 8x10s or whatever.
Yeah.
And you got those autographs. And it's cool and stuff, but I mean, I would get that and I would bring it home and they would go like in a box or, in a folder or something, and I would probably forget where they're at.
Last year, I only got the Nick Castle's autograph, Michael Myers, the original Michael Myers. I didn't get it. I only got him. I did shake hands with Dick Warlock, and I bought his T-shirt.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But I didn't get his autograph. I kind of wish I would have. But the only reason I'm not a big autograph collector, it's kind of cool now because actually it's kind of funny because my daughter's going to college, and so we're doing some swapping around with the rooms. And so my son's youngest, his old room is kind of going to become an office. And so it's sort of become a catch-all while my daughter's sort of using it right now. But I tossed those two autographs in there of Melanie Kinnaman and Amy Steele. And my daughter kind of put them up so they're like sort of on display on a shelf in there. And I walked in there like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, see, that would be kind of cool.
But I'm not I'm not a big fan of like collecting autographs. It is kind of cool to have them now that I have them, like, because I've got those two, and then I've got a bunch of Svengoolie autographs, and then I've got the Michael Myers autograph, Nick Castle. But I think the only reason I did it was I felt like kind of obligated to do it in order to like talk and chat with them a little bit. Right. And I didn't. And I actually really what I wanted more was those photos with them, which were free. So, but I figured like they're not going to want to do that unless I pay for an autograph. So I figured, all right, because I wanted to get Adrian King too, but I was like, I'm not going to spend $75 on autographs that are, like you said, are going to go on a shelf. And so I spent $50, which was too much, but hey, it's one time a year.
The plan for next year, hopefully you won't have to drop any money to talk to some people. This is the second year that we've went together. I think we're going to try to make it an annual thing.
Oh, we are definitely making it an annual thing. And next year, I think we should shoot for 2 days.
Well, next year, we're going to shoot for all 3 days, because next year, I'm going to talk to Mia Kurz, and I don't know how much it costs, but I'm going to talk about getting the dealer table set up.
Nice.
And then that way, we'll have a table. And then we shouldn't have to pay for admission because we'll be paying for the dealer table.
Oh, nice.
And then the plan is to have, hopefully, it might not be next year, it might be the year after, depending on how stuff works out next year. But the plan is to have a dealer table set up, and then, we'll have a banner like on the table or behind us that says S&M Radio and, whatever, horror movie reviews and stuff. And we'll have a little recording station set up.
That would be awesome.
And the goal is to have, to kind of go around and, talk to some of the celebrities there and say, hey, when, you have 5-10 minutes, can you stop over at our booth over in row 3 or whatever it is? And
that's a great idea.
Just talk to them a little bit. Because I think if you have a dealer table there or a vendor booth or whatever you want to call it, I don't think you can actually, or you're probably not technically supposed to go around and look at the stuff. And I would imagine you're definitely probably not allowed to go and sit in the other room and watch the panels and stuff. But
yeah.
But I think it would be cool to sit there and have. If it was like this year, you have Adrian King come over and talk to you for 10 minutes, Amy Steele come over and talk to you for 5-10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Or a half an hour or whatever. And not do the typical what was it like when you had to put that dirty sweater on at the end of Friday the 13th Part 2?
Yeah.
Was it really gross and stinky? None of that stuff. But actually talk to them.
That's a great idea. You got to find And the funny thing is, it seems like I didn't see any podcast tables for any shows. And I think it was either Melanie or Amy said that there's a lot of people that were coming through that were had podcasts. So nobody has done that yet.
Right.
At least not since we've been going. That's a great idea. Because I was going to say do I have anything I'd want to sell? No. I love all my stuff. It's I don't think I could sell any of it. So yeah, doing the podcast and doing the table would be great.
Yeah, I'm not, wouldn't be selling anything. Probably have a big old stack of business cards and maybe get some buttons printed up and probably do another batch of koozies or something and have, some
freebies
and stuff and, talk to people as they're walking by, of course. And, maybe even get some, fans to be like, hey, you got 5 minutes to sit down and talk to us kind of thing.
Awesome. Yeah. Cause there's a lot of stuff there too, that was very, local type of stuff. So yeah, definitely. I'm sure at the right cost, we'd be fine.
The only reason I don't know how much it costs to get a table at Flashback Weekend is because the price isn't available on the website, and I just haven't got around to asking about it.
Okay.
But I know a couple of the other ones I was looking at, they have this is how much a table costs, and you can get a table or have two tables. It's however big your area needs to be. And I know one of them that I was looking at, it was for one table, I think it was $175 or $180 or something for the entire convention. And if you're buying a 3-day admission, that's going to be $70 or $80 or whatever it is anyway. So for the two of us, that's nothing. You're getting in for all 3 days, and then you have have everything there. And I think if you were set up like that, I think people would be more apt to participate than if you stuck a recorder in their face at their table while they're signing autographs. And
right.
I don't think they would be even prone to be sure, we can do a quick interview right now at my table. Yeah. Hold on, I got to sign this autograph. What were you saying again? Kind of
right.
thing.
Yeah, it would cost them some revenue.
Let's talk about earlier how we were standing in line and we were talking with, or Amy Steele walked by and somebody about wet themselves, but
I think I did wet myself. It just dried up really quickly, I think.
Oh man, it's too funny. I kind of did the same thing the very first year that I went when I saw Danielle Harris, because she is my all-time favorite actress, and then walk in and you're like, she wasn't at her table when you walked in, but kept circling around like we were doing, and then she was at her table, and you're like, oh, there she is. That's crazy.
It is crazy, and that's the weirdest thing is like Amy Steele. I remember, I don't know how many times watching Friday the 13th Part 2 and watching her put that sweater on at the end of the movie and pretend to be Pamela Voorhees and do the whole, Jason, you've done your job well. Mommy is pleased. And it's like, she just walked past me. That's so weird. It's like there's something about that. There's like this really weird, it's a really weird experience. It's so surreal. I mean, I just was like, that was the beginning of it is seeing, and she was the first person we saw.
I don't know what the deal was this year, why it took so long to get our tickets. It seemed like the credit card machine must have taken forever or something, because it just took forever. And then you got around to the corner and there was actually two different windows for tickets, one for cash and one for credit card. And I was using cash and you were using credit card. And so I walked over to the cash window pretty much the same time that you were getting your ticket. And I think I was done and waiting for you for probably close to 10 minutes before you came back over.
It was really, 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 really slow, their connection. So the guy before me we were just waiting and waiting and waiting for his thing to process. And I was like, crap.
Yeah, I know. I kept thinking, I'm like, oh man, because that guy in front of you, that's what I was thinking. Like, I wonder if that guy's like getting his card denied or something.
Right. No, it was just
taking forever.
Yeah, it was slow. And then we saw, what was almost exciting was they had the two T-shirts from the previous, like every year they have a new T-shirt that you can purchase for the flashback. And the current one is $20. And then the previous one, but they had two previous ones and they were selling them for $5 a piece. And they had the one with the John Carpenter time, which was really cool. It had like the thing and stuff on it. And then they had the one from last year with like the pumpkin-headed ghoul. And I'm like, oh, cool, $5 a piece. I'm gonna grab one. And then I found out, oh, they're like, both of them are, all they have left is like extra large.
You could have got one and then made it into like a sleep gown, probably.
Yeah, I could have done that. Or we could have cut the picture out and made it into a patch, like we were talking about.
I don't know if that would even work though. I mean, because you're not a big guy. I mean, what do you wear? A medium? So
yeah, medium's about.
Yeah, I was gonna say because that back patch would be like it would start at your shoulders and still cover your butt.
Yeah, I wanted that one because it was the one that you were at where Carpenter introduced the thing.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh, I got to get that T-shirt, and then found out that nope. And I even went back later on in the day just to see if like maybe they found some extra smaller ones in there. And nope, it was all extra large.
Yeah, I bet if you went like on Friday, they probably had different sizes, but by the time we get around on Sunday, they're like, oh, this is all we got. Surprised it wasn't like a bunch of like extra smalls and like 4X or whatever. But yeah, $5 for a shirt's a really good deal, but even the $20 for a shirt's not a bad price at all either.
No, that's not bad. That's about average.
And we were talking about this there, and then we had talked about before, but one of the things that is making a comeback is the whole patch thing. And me and my youngest daughter had seen, when we were at Walker Stalker Con earlier in the year, we had seen these, basically what they are is they're these used flannels that you can get at Goodwill for like $3 a piece. And then they have what almost appears to be t-shirts cut up, and then they're making patches out of them, like a big back patch out of them.
Yeah.
And I didn't see what they were at this one, but I know at Walker Stalker they were selling them for $50 a piece. And so me and my daughter were like, oh, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. And we both got flannels. We just haven't gotten the stuff that we're going to make patches out of yet.
Nice.
And my daughter is a huge Walking Dead fan, and we were somewhere the other day, and they had this on one of the clearance racks. They had this Walking Dead. It was like a tank top. It was on clearance for like $3 or something, and she was like, "Oh, that's perfect! I want to get that." But it was like a 3X, and she like held it up, and the graphic that was on it, I'm like, "That's not going to fit on your back." Like you held it up to her, it would have like started like at her neck and still like went all the way the length of the shirt on the back. I'm like, yeah, that's too big.
Nice.
But
yeah, I like that back patch idea. That's kind of cool that it's coming back. Because back when we were kids, the big deal was you would go get a jean jacket, and then you would go get your favorite band's like a album cover art or something, and have the big patch that you'd have to have your mom sew onto the back of the jean jacket.
Yeah, and I see at some of the shows that I go to every once in a while, I still see that there. People with these like jean vests on that they got patches all over them. The only drawback with mine is because I actually ordered a Lily Munster back patch from a company. Nice. I think they're based out of Las Vegas or something. It's been almost 2 months, and I still have not got the patch. And I keep emailing them, and
that sucks.
Well, is there any update on this? Oh, yeah, we mailed it. Is this the right address? Yep, that's the right address. Still nothing. So it's getting I paid for it using PayPal, so I'm getting almost to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to tell PayPal I never got it.
Yeah, the first back patch I ever got, I think it was the only one, too. We would go to that local music store, and I had a Kiss back patch sewed onto to the back of my jean jacket.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a back patch when we were.
Really? You had the buttons though, didn't you?
Think so. Yeah, I had a ton of buttons. I have an Iron Maiden button sitting right in front of me right now.
Yeah, I had a ton of Iron Maiden, some Metallica, Megadeth, all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I had any back patches then. When I was I a junior or senior in high school? I got this old like army jacket, and I got a bunch of patches, and like the smaller ones, and they were all like iron-on ones.
Oh, okay.
And I had a bunch of patches on that jacket, but I don't think I ever had a back patch.
Yeah, you had to sew it on. I remember that. My mom painstakingly sewed that thing on. But that was cool, like to see like all those horror back patches, and you kind of showed that to me, and I was like, huh. Because I hadn't seen any of that, and I totally forgot about that. Like that was a thing at one time, because that was a real big deal back then. You would go get your for fans of metal and rock and all that. You would go get it was like the T-shirt thing. But you would go get the patch and put it on a jean jacket. And I just totally, it was like one of those things I hadn't thought about for so long. And then we were looking at those flannels. I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I think it's cool anyway. I mean, but of course we're almost 40, so anything that we think is cool is probably not cool anymore.
No, yeah. The fact that's the funny thing too. I told my kids and showed them my autographs and everything, and they just didn't really care.
Because they're probably
it's really weird.
So did you show them the pictures too?
I did.
So when we got in there and we went through the merchandise area or the vendor area looking at some stuff, and some stuff is overpriced and some stuff you're like, oh, that's a pretty good price on that. And then we walked over by where the celebrities were at. We went through there a couple of times, and
more than a couple of times.
First person that we interacted with was Melanie Kinnaman, and you got her autograph.
I did, and she actually was the first. She was what excited me about this flashback, so I had to visit her first.
The first thing when you see Melanie Kinnaman in person nowadays is you can definitely tell that she's had a little bit of work done.
Just a little.
We were talking with her, and like I said before, I don't get autographs at these things. I mean, it's nothing against the celebrities. I like talking to the celebrities and stuff. I just don't want to, I don't want to give you $25 to have you write on a piece of paper that I'm going to, pretty much lose when I get home. But we mentioned to her that while she was signing the picture that you got from her, that we did a podcast, and she goes, "Oh, what was the name of that? I'll listen to it later." And I said, S&M Radio. And she wrinkled up her nose and went, ugh. And right away I was like, yep, you're not listening to that later. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, she was cool. She was really cool. She took 2 pictures with me. Like, one was a surprise picture. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, so and you guys can see, well, Well, I'll post them on our Facebook page. I only posted I posted the one of you and Amy Steele, but the first one that you had, because you had brought your mask from Friday the 13th Part 5, and
yes, and let me give a kudos to that. I'm a huge mask nut. I love the masks from certain movies, and I collect them. And I've gotten to the point where I will only buy a mask if it's extremely accurate to the film. And I will say Crash Creations, who is the guy who makes these hockey masks from every film of the Friday the 13th series, does it so to the T perfectly in every way that, yeah, the mask I brought was the Friday the 13th Part 5 mask that he made, and you would think it was straight out of the movie.
But it was funny because like she wouldn't touch the mask, which I thought was kind of odd. And I don't know if maybe she's done that or she refused to do that because maybe in the past, she's touched them and come to find, maybe dropped one. I don't have any idea. Come to find out that, a lot of these are, they're not like the mask I have, which I paid like less than $10 for.
Really? Wow.
But
yeah, I paid a little more than that.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, she doesn't want to be responsible for it. But yeah, so you guys got the first picture taken and she was nice and stuff. And then she did that other picture where she walked behind you and then put her arms around your neck kind of, and then kind of rested her head on your shoulder almost.
Yeah. That was like, I was like frozen when that was happening.
And at first I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then I don't know if you've seen this past week or not, but on her Facebook page, there's been a bunch of other guys that have been like tagging her in pictures.
Yeah.
And I've seen a bunch of that same pose jump up on her page. So she must do that with pretty much everybody.
Yeah. But you want to hear something weird? And this will go into to our later part of our conversation. Like I've posted a couple of things on her site before, and then instantly she likes what I say, Every single picture, every photo of her and somebody, she liked it or commented on it. The picture I posted of me and her, she won't like it. Isn't that funny?
That is kind of funny. And I actually, I don't know, I got a weird feeling from her there. Like maybe it was the S&M thing that offended her, but she just kind of was like seemed like she was kind of done with us after a couple of minutes.
You think so?
Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I was just taking it weird. But the other thing that I will say, because we talked about this a couple episodes ago, maybe it didn't make it on the air. A couple of months ago, I was really hem and hawing about the possibility of changing the show name to get away from S&M Radio, because I do know that kind of the reaction that Melanie Kinnaman had towards it when we talked to her last weekend. And I've said this before, that I have a few people that I know that have flat out refused to listen to the show because of the name.
Yeah, I think the name is turning a few people off.
But after last weekend, I'm never changing the name, because I didn't carry business cards with me that I had printed up last year, maybe the year before. And, one of the things that we did when this latest anniversary came around was we removed the intro music and the outro music from the show. And so the business cards used to say horror movies and music. And that's kind of misleading now because we don't have music anymore. I have been reluctant to hand them out for the past couple of months. But when we walked into Flashback Weekend, I know there was a few people that were like, "Oh, podcast, do you have a business card?" Everybody that we talked to said, "Well, what's the name of your podcast?" We would go, "Oh, it's S&M Radio." And everybody went, "S&M Radio?" Well, I'm not going to forget that name. So it's here to stay, folks. I mean, if it turns you off, if S&M Radio turns you off and you're a horror fan, sorry. It is kind of funny, though, that the name of our show is offensive to people, but I would assume that if somebody would actually listen to the show that's offended by the name, would be like, oh, I'd even let my little kids listen to this. These guys are pretty clean.
Yeah, I think we still have the mentality of sixth graders.
Yeah, but we're not foul-mouthed. I mean, even some of the stuff that we talk about is pretty horrific, but...
Yeah, that's true.
But I did get new business cards printed up. Just earlier today, I ordered a new batch that
they look nice.
Don't say music on them. And I got to give props to Vistaprint because Vistaprint is dirt cheap. So I paid for everything with those business cards. I ended up paying less than $10, and that's shipped.
Nice.
For I think it's 250 of them. So
got rid of all my old ones. I gave them to everybody that
cool.
I thought would have some interest in it.
Yeah, I had a different design printed up that actually had our logo on it, but it was going to be $10 more. And I was like, I'll go with these cheaper ones. I went with the cheaper ones. But getting new business cards. But so we talked to Melanie Kinnaman for a couple of minutes. Then I think we went and had lunch right there at the bar in the hotel.
And lunch was great too. Those burgers, man, they kill it.
Yeah, they were pretty good. I think next year I'm going to go without the egg on my burger.
Are you?
I think so. The egg was a little too much this year.
You had your burger was already built. I think mine was Build-A-Burger, and so I pretty much just want the basics on there.
Yeah, I usually do too. I either want mustard and onion on mine, maybe some bacon, but every once in a while, I'll see the egg option on the menu. I'll be like, ooh, that sounds kind of good.
Nice.
And I'll go with that. But we had lunch.
And while we were eating lunch, it was kind of cool because we're sitting there and I'm glad we didn't leave. We were tossing up the idea of leaving the hotel and eating across the street, but we stayed, which I think was a great idea because while we were eating, all the final girls were walking past us to go do their photo ops and stuff. So it was kind of cool to see that. So you had Adrienne King, Amy Steele, and Melanie Kinnaman walking past us a couple of times, and that was very cool. There's just something very cool about the sitting there eating and having a beer and looking over and seeing that's the girls from Friday the 13th. They just walked past us.
See, but wouldn't it have been even more cool if one of them would have, or all three of them would have been oh, we're parched, let's go get a drink, and come into the bar and sat down by us and been oh hey guys, how's it going?
That would have been extremely cool.
I think I've told this story on the radio before, maybe not, but when I went to the first Flashback Weekend that I went to, which like I said before, I think it was in 2011 or 2012, John Carpenter was there, so there was this big Halloween theme to it, even though there wasn't that many Halloween people there from the John Carpenter area, but there was a lot of the folks from Rob Zombie's Halloween movies there. Danielle Harris was there. Scout Taylor Compton was there. Christina Klebb was there. And then Taylor Maine was there.
Nice.
I think Malcolm McDowell might have been at that one as well. I'm not sure. But then also there was a bunch of Friday the 13th people there too. Amy Steele was there. Adrienne King was there. There was another girl from Friday the 13th there. I think it was what's-her-face from Part 3 was there, maybe. A bunch of Jasons were there. I think there was 3 or 4 Jasons there. But that year I think it was the 30th anniversary of The Thing. So there was a special screening of The Thing. And then there was a couple of movie premieres there as well. And one of the premieres that was there was Danielle Harris's directorial debut horror comedy called Among Friends. What happens at a lot of these things, if you've never been, when there's movies being premiered or short films or whatever, usually the director or the writer or an actor or a group of people will introduce the movie. If I remember right, John Carpenter, they did a little like kind of like a Q&A thing before the movie. But anyway, Danielle Harris came in and introduced her movie, did the introduction, and then like, all right, enjoy the movie, and then came back around a couple of rows of seats, and I was sitting like in the first row of seats that was like in the back section, so not the real close seats or anything. And she came back around and heard the people that she was with, and she sat down right next to me, and we watched the movie, and then
nice.
She got up and left and stuff. And I mean, we weren't like talking or anything, but I always tell people like, oh, it was cool. I got to see Danielle's movie like with Danielle Harris. It was pretty awesome.
That is really cool.
But the coolest moment of this past weekend was after we got back from lunch, you were debating, whether you're going to get Adrienne King's autograph or Amy Steele's autograph or both. And I kept saying I would go with Amy Steele. I would go with Amy Steele. In my opinion, she's the cooler of the two. And so we went with that. And the funny thing, and I'm going to tell this whole story, I hope you don't mind.
Go for it.
Okay. One of the things that we were talking about at lunch was you were like, oh, I wonder if I could get one of these women to like read my script. That would be so cool. And I'm thinking to myself like, yeah, they don't want to do that. And then we go up to Amy Steele's table and, you were like, giving her the spiel, you're the best and blah, blah, blah.
Was I doing that? I don't remember.
Oh, yeah. And then she was like, oh, thanks. Well, what picture do you want? And you're like, oh, the one with the pitchfork. And then you were just like, oh, so I have the script. Will you read it? And she's like, and you could just, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I could tell like the look on her face, like, ugh. No, I'm not going to.
It was like I like to hear your version of it because I had Blur and like, I don't even know. I wasn't expecting to do that. It just like came out. So like, yeah, like, so was this before or after we talked about the whole therapist thing?
This was before. Cause so,
it was? Okay.
Yeah. So this whole thing, it was a very surreal experience to say the least.
Yes, it was.
So here I'm all of a sudden now I'm standing next to Creeper Mark, who's like trying to get pawn his screenplay off on an actress, and I could see from her face that she was like, well, I'm never gonna read this, but yeah, send it to me. And then you're like, oh well, how do you want me to send it to you? And she's like, I suppose you can email it to me. And so she wrote down her email address. You had made the comment how you really liked that character that she played in Friday the 13th Part 2, that you really thought the whole therapist thing was really cool. And she was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then you said, I'm a therapist. And then she went, wait, what? I'm a therapist.
Oh, so I said it first?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can't get it. I can't remember. It all just happened so quickly.
And then this whole thing changed like around immediately because I saw her face like change. Like, oh, these guys are kind of weird. What, here's these 40-year-old guys like drooling over my pictures. I don't, all I know is this guy's going to take this picture back to his hotel room and pleasure himself to it. And then all of a sudden her face changed. And we were talking about the podcast a little bit. You're like, oh, yeah, what's your podcast name? And S&M Radio. And she was like, and she had even said, too, she was like, oh, not going to forget that name. And then you guys were talking about therapy stuff. And she's like giving you tips and pointers. And this is what you need to do. And you need to use this software. And you need to go to this website. And you need to do this. And then this whole conversation between you two was taking place, and I'm kind of like, I have no idea what the hell these guys are even talking about. And then after like 15 minutes or so, we kind of turned the conversation from therapy to talking about like movies and stuff in general. And she did say, like, she flat out said, I don't think she's going to be offended that we say this on the air, but you brought up Melanie Kinnaman, and she was like, oh, never seen that movie. And you were like, oh, really? And then we said something about meeting somebody else, I don't know, a couple years ago or whatever, and we were like, oh. And she goes, never seen Halloween. Never seen that. And then she goes, I don't like horror at all. I don't know what you guys see in that. I don't know why you guys are here. And then we started talking about that. And she wasn't rude or anything. She was just like, I don't get it. I don't know why you guys like it. Whatever. We had this whole conversation about that. And then she goes, after like 20, 25 minutes, you know what? I'm going to give you my P.O. box because you're going to email that to me and I'm not going to read it. So here's my P.O. box. Send me a hard copy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, she's going to read his script.
Yeah, so, that like left me like, speaking of which too, I've been tracking the script, like it's progress to her location, and it got there today at like 10:28 a.m. So, but yeah. Oh, it was just crazy. I mean, it was like, so I wrote 4 screenplays. And this was back like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the second screenplay I ever wrote, and it was the first one I wrote alone, because my first time I wrote with a buddy of mine. But so the second one I wrote was about a psychologist. And, and then I actually, about 6 years ago, had been trying to push it again and trying to get somebody to read it, like out in like agents in Hollywood and all that crap. And I actually had one for like a brief period of time. It was really exciting because this lady really loved it, and she was a legitimate agent, wasn't like some sort of fly by night thing. She had some success with selling stuff and all of that. So, and she was registered with the Writers Guild, which is like, if you find an agent, you want to look at the WGA website, because all of these people have to go by the standards and they only get 15% of the sale and blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't like somebody working out of their mom's basement or anything. So anyhow, and she was located in Hollywood, and she loved the script. And then she was pushing it, and she would send me the emails of all the rejections that the studios would give and like why they rejected it. Some of them would just say no thanks, and others would give a reason. But anyhow, I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. I was like, it was the most exciting time ever, but nothing ever came of it. So for the last 6 years, it was just sitting there, and I didn't really think about it. And being at Flashback, it's just like your creative juices just start flowing. It's like, man, I just want to be part of this somehow. I want to like be part of a film. And like, so like, I was like, when we were sitting having lunch, that was when I was thinking, you know what? I got these screenplays. I need to like push these things. I need to like just go up and just, who cares? Maybe they won't care. So anyhow, Amy Steele being interested in this one and actually giving me her P.O. box to send it was just like unbelievable. So Monday morning, because we did this on Monday, or was it Sunday night or Monday night? One of the two. I sent her an email because the address, the P.O. box she gave me was a little confusing on how she wrote it. So I wrote the address out, and I asked her, is this the right address? I was the guy who had the screenplay. And I'm thinking, if she doesn't respond, then she probably was just kind of didn't really care or whatever. And that's fine, But she responded. I sent it like around 10:30 at night. And then the next morning around like 9 a.m. or something, she responded and said, yep, that's the address. I'm looking forward to reading it. And I just could not believe it. I was like, what? So like, anyhow, so the script it's in her box right now. It's in her P.O. box. And, I sent her a self-addressed stamp envelope in case she wanted to send me a letter instead of email, but obviously she's got my email now. And I wrote a little letter just thanking her for her time and all that, and gave her all my contact information. So she could do whatever she wants. Call me, text me, email me, snail mail me, whatever. So I want to hear what she says about it. And I mean, her last film was in 2014. She did like an independent movie that was like, it looked like it. I've been kind of looking around on her Facebook, and it looks like it was like they had to get fans to fund it and that kind of thing. So I mean, if she could like do something like that with this, that would be really, really cool. And if she liked it, of course, and if she has any. But what would be really cool is if she got a hold of Sean S. Cunningham or Steve Miner, and like, hey, I like the script. Hey, will you, will you come and direct my movie? like, and I'll star in this, and it'll be like the return of a Friday Girl. Yeah, so that's really exciting, and then the fact that we have the connection with we're both therapists is really cool. And so I'm going to send her an email once I hear from what she thinks of the script. Then I'm going to see if she'll do an interview for our show.
Yeah, it was really cool talking with her. We were talking about. Well, you guys were talking about the therapy thing for a while, and then she asked us, like, why do you guys like horror? And then we were talking about it, and then we were talking about Final Girls and stuff, and she had made the suggestion to read a book, and so I was like, oh, yeah, what's the name of it? And she's like, I don't remember the name of it, but if you look up... Yeah, so then she was like, oh, yeah, so you got to read this book by this lady named Carol Clover, and she couldn't remember what the name of it was, and I was like, oh, okay. And so when we got home on Sunday, I started doing some digging, and then I found it, and it's called Men, Women, and Chainsaws, Gender in the Modern Horror Film, because one of the things that we had talked about, which is it's something that we talked about on this show before, how we don't personally think that women being the final girl in horror movies is disrespectful to women in any way or anything. We view it as more being empowering than anything.
Big time, yeah.
And so I'm going to read. I ordered a used copy of this book. It almost looks like this is one of those books that if you take a horror class, like in a college level class, you know, like a film type of class.
Yeah.
That this is like one of the books that you have to read for that class. So it might be a stinker, but as soon as I get it, I'm gonna read it. And then me and you were talking about the other day. I wouldn't mind having her on a future episode of the show, and not to talk, not to do like, oh, how was it shooting Friday the 13th Part 2, blah, 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 but, like to talk about like some of this stuff, because it had to have been close to a half an hour conversation that we had with her.
Which is crazy.
And it all started with, you want to read my screenplay? And she was like, ugh, no. But
was she really negative about it? I can't remember.
She wasn't really negative, but you could tell like the look on her face, just like for a complete second, was kind of like, yeah,
really?
I'm not gonna read it. Because then she was like, here's my email, and then I just knew too. I'm like, yeah, there's no way she's gonna read it. She'll get the email and she'll be like, okay, I got it, and then she'd like never get back in touch with you. But as soon as she said, send me a physical copy, so then that way I'll actually read it, I'm like, oh yeah, now she'll read it.
One thing too, like I remember in that conversation was, like at first, like when I said screenplay, I knew it would sound kind of hokey, like, but so I told her I hope I said it right, because I've said it real quickly, I think, but I told her that it was represented and it was shopped around, which gave it a little bit more weight to it. So it wasn't just like, yeah, I wrote a screenplay. I've never, it actually, people were interested in it. So enough to like, put their name on it and shop it around. So I think that kind of lured her in a little more. And then we went into the whole like healthcare thing, where she was like basically saying that she has to pay for her own healthcare, but if she's in a movie or making a movie, then the Screen Actors Guild pays for their healthcare for the year. So it was just really interesting, like, so she was really, I think, looking at it from a business angle.
Exactly.
Which was kind of cool. So anyhow, it's in her P.O. box as we speak. It's
That's
there.
pretty
It's
cool.
sitting there right now, unless she took it out. And so it's like, I wonder, like, what, I wonder if she's going to stop in there today to get it. We'll see, I guess. But
so what would you do if you, let's say, I mean, how many pages is a script?
It's 101 pages.
Okay, so 2 hours to read it? 3 hours to read it, probably?
No, it probably you could burn through it in an hour.
Okay, so let's say
it's formatted.
Let's say she went and picked it up today.
Yeah.
And tomorrow morning, she's sitting around. Gets up in the morning, makes some scrambled eggs and some bacon, and then goes out onto the back porch. And I just imagine that Amy Steele is living off of all the revenue that she made off of Friday the 13th Part 2. and she's got this this giant house on this enormous acreage, and she's got this huge, like, second story deck on the back of her house. And she goes out there and she's got her coffee and she sets it up on the ledge and she's got her feet kicked up and she starts thumbing through the screenplay. And she's like, wow, this is really good. And then all of a sudden, tomorrow afternoon, your phone rings and it says, like, unknown or hello. And she's like, hey, Mark, it's Amy Steele. I love the screenplay. What are you going to do?
I have no idea. Like that. See, like I'm hoping that she'll do something. Because, like, I don't have any connection. So I'm hoping, like, she's like, I hope she likes it. And then that she calls somebody and says, hey, I want to make this, I want to star in this. Because if that happens, then, or like, if that's, or then, or if she attaches herself to it and says, yeah, I'll do this, then I'm going to go back to that agent lady and say, hey, I got so-and-so, I got Amy Steele to, from Friday the 13th Part 2 and April Fool's Day. She wants to star in this movie. Can you go back and, like, send this out to those studios again and say that she's part of this? That's kind of where I guess. I mean, I'm
I don't know.
Completely clueless what will happen, but
I always wonder too how much pull does an Amy Steele have, or like we were talking about a Heather Langenkamp. I mean,
well, I don't think like she's. I mean, like, it's all a business and it's all about making money for these people. But I'm thinking, like, she'll probably have a lot of pull with, like, independent filmmakers for sure, like people like you and me who got into the business. So if she can, like, go out and, like, call, like, say, oh yeah, so and so from whatever, I'll call this guy. He keeps talking about making a movie, wanting me to be in it. So hey, I got a script, blah, or whatever. And even if it was like one of those movies that was, like, played once in a convention or something, that would be more than enough. I would be like, yeah, that's great. Okay, I'm good. Wow. But, like, and it was funny too. I went and reread the script because I hadn't read it for a while. And I wrote this thing, like, in the late '90s. So there's, like, a lot of. It's kind of funny reading it because cell phones aren't dominant in the screenplay, and because, like, characters have to borrow cell phones and stuff to make phone calls. And that was kind of funny to read. And then, like, one of the vehicles is a '91 Chevy Cavalier. So I thought that was kind of funny too.
You should, if it ever gets made, you should insist that it's accurate to the script.
Right.
To have it set in, like, in 1998 or whatever.
Nice. Yeah, good idea.
That would be perfect. I always find it's funny when you're watching these movies nowadays and the way that technology evolves anymore, especially in the past, like, 10 years, you can tell when a movie was filmed by the cell phones that are in it. So I always find it funny when, like, a new movie comes out, but then you do some digging on it and then you find, like, oh, this was actually shot like 4 years ago.
Right.
And the guy's, like, the one of the actors, like, whips out a phone and, like, flips it open and, like, boop, boop, boop on the keypad.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, is it 1987? Oh, what the hell is that? A flip phone?
Yeah, this is definitely a flip phone script for sure. So, but yeah, it's funny too because I told her it was a suspense thriller, and it is. There's a lot. It's not a slasher. It's not a. It's a little bit more suspenseful, and I was like, when I first wrote it, like I had, like, kind of Silence of the Lamb. It very much, like, when I go back and I read it, it reminds me. There's a little bit of Silence of the Lambs, a little bit of Halloween, and a little bit of a decent amount of The Town That Dreaded Sundown in it. There's, like, a weird mixture of those films, so you could see the influences of those. And I'm reading it, I'm like, I told her this was a suspense thriller, but it is clearly a horror film. When you read it, it's like, yeah, this is a horror film for sure. It's a horror thriller. So, I mean, there's just a few things in there that you can't deny that. So I thought that was cool.
Well, yeah, maybe something to come of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to your contract, though, so you're signed on for another 10 years.
Excellent. Yeah, and I actually had a independent guy ask to make it into a movie. He really, really liked it. And I used to have this. There's a website, simplyscripts.com, and you could post your scripts on there. I mean, they have produced movies on there, but then unproduced scripts, like people writing, and I had a lot of good responses on it. And I had one guy call me or email me and say, "Yeah, I'd love to make it. I want to make it in a movie, and can I use it?" And blah blah blah. And then I was really excited until he told me that my payment would be a copy of the movie when it was complete. I was like, no. So I was like, I got to have some kind of monetary thing. But if Amy Steele's involved, maybe it might be different.
Yeah, if Amy's making it, you still might only be like, we might be able to get you a copy of it when we're done. Because unfortunately, that's the thing anymore. We had talked about this like in the car last weekend. Is it costs nothing to make an independent movie anymore, but with technology being what it is now, I mean, there's a few people that, like us, and you were saying how earlier with these people doing like GoFundMe or Kickstarter or whatever for a project. But other than that, I mean, there's so many independent movies out there that, it'd be cool if you had an independent movie made and stuff, but if it went like straight to streaming, I mean, nobody's going to buy it on DVD. I mean, there would be some people, but it's not like it's going to be selling like 1 million copies on DVD. What will end up happening is it would end up on like Netflix or Amazon Prime or something, and I don't know what kind of kickback you get off of that.
That's fine with me. I'd be really excited as a 40-year-old to have that happen.
I mean, it's not like you're going to be, screw this therapy thing. I'm going to make movies for a living.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think of you think of all my favorite movies. Pretty much every single one of them were independent films that just blew up. And I was reading a lot about Tobe Hooper and the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and how basically they ran out of money when they were filming, and that was extremely low budget, and they ran out of money, and they went to a distributor or a movie financer, and it turned out to be they had links to the mob. They said, yeah, we need to borrow this amount of money, or this amount of money we need you to finance this film, and so they signed contracts and stuff, and basically that company screwed everybody in the film. So all the actors and filmmakers and all that got crap. They didn't get anything barely for the movie, but at the same time, it launched Tobe Hooper as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy, and and all those Gunnar Hansen became known for Leatherface and all that, but he never made any money. I just am I can't believe that. It's sort of weird to think that Amy Steele is going to read my screenplay. That's a weird thought. That girl that going back, that you and I, we would walk home from 4th grade from Mr. Barry's class, go to my house, and I would turn on Friday the 13th Part 2 that I taped the night before on Betamax, and we watched Amy Steele put on that old gnarly sweater and do the whole Pamela Voorhees thing to tell Jason that, put the machete down, it's okay. And that lady, that person is going to read my screenplay. That's really weird.
Yeah, she was pretty cool. She was really cool. My favorite part of Flashback Weekend last weekend was shortly after we got there, they made an announcement over the loudspeaker that there was a special for the Sunday attendees that you could get a picture from the Scream movie that had Neve Campbell, Matthew Lillard, and Skeet Ulrich in it, signed by all 3 of them for the special price of $150, but you had to go to the front desk to buy one, but it was only limited to, I think they said 50 photos or something like that. And as I said earlier, Neve Campbell was charging $75 an autograph, and then the other 2 were charging $50 an autograph. So you were only saving $25 if you bought this special picture. And Flashback Weekend on that Sunday it started at 11, I think it was, and then I think it was supposed to be over at 4. And I think it was probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon, whenever it was, there was another announcement over the PA again. We just want to remind everybody that we have this special Scream opportunity, so you can get a picture signed by Nev Campbell, Matthew Lillard, and Skeet Ulrich. All three for only $150. Limited to only 50. And I'm like, so like in 4 hours they sold 0 pictures.
Wow. Yeah, that's funny.
But if you remember, too, the thing with Nev Campbell, because we had this conversation on the way up there, I kept saying, I don't think she's really a celebrity anymore. I mean, I don't know if people are going to be like, oh, hey, it's Nev Campbell. And we were talking about how, like, the generation after us, you know, those were their Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween's, you know, all those crappy 90s horror movies. But when we got there and we were making our laps around the celebrity area, Nev Campbell was there, and she was signing a autograph, but after that, I didn't see her at all. So I always thought it was kind of... Yeah, I was telling my wife, I'm like, so I don't know if she was just gone because of no traffic from the days before, or she was doing other stuff, but I was like, if you're charging that much, I mean, it's hard to make money if you're never at your booth to sign autographs. One of the other things that happened after that was, this was Sunday afternoon, the last day of the convention. We were tooling around, which we did last year, and I'm sure we'll do every year. You know, you make 20 laps through the vendor area, and every time you go through, you see something new.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're like, oh, cool, look at this, look at that. And, you know, we both are like big, like action figure guys. So we were like looking at some of the action figures and Jason masks and all of this other stuff. One of the things that I think is cool that's starting to become a trend again, or now, or whatever, is there's all these little independent companies popping up that make t-shirts, and they make these enamel pins and hats and stuff, you know, and doing their own like spin on some of the classic designs. So you have like, there was more than one there. There was Terror Threads was there that we saw, and then there was Creepy Company was there, I think, was another one that we saw there. But one of the companies that has like a big vendor booth there every year is Full Moon Pictures. Always has a bunch of their movies, and then they have a bunch of their dolls that they sell, these giant like replica dolls of their Puppet Master dolls, and then some of their other dolls, and their vinyl that they have, and they sell some other stuff as well. Because for those of you who know the history of Full Moon Pictures, Charles Band is the founder of that, and he is the man that was responsible for Wizard Video back in the day and some other stuff as well. But anyway, it was, I think, towards the end of the day, and there was an announcement over the PA. Everything at the Flashback Weekend booth is free, or is half price. And we were like, oh, cool, let's go see what they got. Because me and you were looking for a movie to review. And we were kind of looking around, and there just wasn't anything that was really catching our eye. I mean, there was some stuff that we were like, oh, that sounds absolutely horrible. We should do that. And then, like, looking at the price, it's like $24. I'm like, I'm not paying $24 for a DVD. And then, so we walk over to the Full Moon booth, and we're kind of looking around. And one of the guys that was kind of added last minute, who's not really a celebrity at all, is David Dakatu. I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce his last name, or Dakoto or whatever. He was the director of Puppet Master 3, and he was signing autographs for free, supposedly, at the Flashback booth. Or at the Full Moon booth. So we walked over to the Full Moon booth, and we're just kind of thumbing through the DVDs and Blu-rays that they have there. There was a couple of people working the booth, and I don't even remember if you caught on to this or not, but there was like this one kid that was like, I'm interested in the big replica dolls let's say I bought one of each one of them, what kind of deal would you give me? They were like, oh, well, there would be like, it's $750 normally. So half price would be like $375. And he goes, I'll give you $250 for all of them. And they were like, okay. And so he bought these, like, however many there was, like 7 dolls or whatever it was. And these are like big, like 2-foot dolls. You know, and I don't know if you saw him or not, but he's like walking around. Him and his buddy are like walking around with all these dolls stuffed into their arms.
I didn't catch that whole. I saw the guy, but is that the one he took the picture of?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, I saw that, but I didn't know that that he made that deal with him. I thought,
yeah,
I had no idea about it.
Hilarious.
That's funny.
And then you had said, yeah, we're looking for a movie to review on the podcast. And the guy's like, well, this is my movie. And he picks up a copy of Puppet Master 3 and hands it to you. And he's like, this is my movie. You should do this one. Hold on. I'm going to sign it first. And he rips it open and signs it and gives it to you. And then he was like, yeah, just take it. Just give it a good review is what he said. And then we were both like, oh, cool. And then you were like, oh, we need another copy, though, because we each need one. So you bought another copy. And then I'm like, okay, cool. And then the guy's like, and then you're going to have me on your show. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I haven't emailed him yet. He gave us his email address. But we will have David Decoto. I'm sorry, David, if I'm butchering your last name. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But we'll have him on. We'll have him on a future episode. Even though the last interview that we did was with Destiny and Tristan, which was almost exactly a year ago, and I just hadn't had the desire to really do interviews since we switched from the very old format of the show to me and Mark doing it with the horror movies and stuff. I had Destiny and Tristan on a year ago, and I'm actually planning on, if you guys are listening to this, get ready, because I'm going to ask you again here to be on in a future episode as well, too. And then to close out the weekend was, which I was actually a little bit disappointed with, was Svengoolie was doing a special presentation of Abbott and Costello Meet the Wolfman, and the way that it was, or was it Meet Frankenstein?
Meet Frankenstein.
Meet Frankenstein. And the way that it was advertised was like it was kind of going to be a live Svengoolie episode. And I was like, oh, this would be cool. Like, they're going to pause the movie like every 15, 20 minutes or so and come out and, he's going to, do his little shtick and this and that. He came out on stage. Well, the first thing they did was they did like the intro to Svengoolie. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's cool. This is what it's going to be. And then he come up on the stage. And then he did this like weird audience participation thing where they like did the synopsis of the movie, but he pulled like 3 people out of the audience and they all did like a line from the movie, like over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, yes, they did.
And then he was like, okay, now it's time for the movie. I'm going to come back up on stage after the movie's over. And I was like, oh, oh really? And not that, I mean, that's an okay movie, I mean, those Abbott and Costello movies, those were the precursor to what we have nowadays for horror comedies. I mean,
yeah.
Oh yeah. If you're sitting back and you're like, oh, okay, it's Saturday night. I got cold beer. I got some chips. Let's watch Abbott and Costello run around, be a couple idiots, and make me laugh for a little bit.
Yep.
But it wasn't what I was expecting. So, but it was still good to see Svengoolie in person.
It's really weird. Every time I see him, the first thing that I think of is, wow, his suit is really clean. It's like it almost shines. It's really weird.
And he's littler than every time I see him. The thing I always think of is, man, he's little. Like he's just not. I mean, he's not tall by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not in person. He's not as fat in person as he appears to be on screen.
Yeah. What do they say? The screen puts on 10 pounds, something like that.
Man, with him, it almost would be like 50 pounds. Every time he just looks so pudgy on screen, and you see him in person, it's like, oh, he's like a normal sized guy.
Yeah.
Of course, he's probably lost a lot of weight in the past couple of years because he had that massive heart attack 2 years ago now.
Oh, and also I have to mention my purchase because we went around and, like we said, I got a couple autographs. I got I got an autograph from Melanie Kinnaman and with a picture with a photo, and a autograph from Amy Steele with a photo. And then I also we wandered around the vendors and everything and looked at DVDs, and we both got the Puppet Master 3. But the one thing I did purchase that caught my eye, I did get They Live, John Carpenter's They Live, for $3 on VHS.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that.
So my VHS collection is looking really sweet right now. So I'm very, 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 very happy to have that in there. I almost got Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 as well, because Part 1 and Part 3 are the ones I really like of that series. But I held back. And
the first Flashback Weekend I went to, I always brag that, I watched Amongst Friends with Danielle Harris. But the other really cool thing that happened at that first Flashback Weekend that I went to was there's this guy that some people will know who he is, some people won't. If you're a convention person, you probably know who he is. Sean Clark, who at a lot of these conventions kind of does like a lot of behind the scenes work. I didn't see him at all there this year, but he also works for Horror Hound magazine, and he does Horror Hollows Grounds on some DVDs. I think are those the Scream Factory DVDs that he does that for?
I don't know. I know that my Halloween 2, that is a Scream Factory, did have that included in it, but I don't know if he does that for, because I know it's in the magazine.
Yeah, it's in the magazine. Yep. Yeah, but on some DVDs and Blu-rays, there's like a little featurette where they do like Horror's Hallowed Grounds, and what it is they take like famous scenes from horror movies, or they like focus on a horror movie and focus on different scenes throughout the movie. And it's like, here's the scene in the movie and here's the location in real life kind of thing. He had written and put out this movie of his own that was making the horror convention rounds that year. Echoes of Blackwater Pond, I think is the name of it.
Yeah. Yep.
And that movie was premiering, and Danielle Harris has a role in that movie as well. I can't remember if it was before or after the movie played, because a lot of times what they'll do, or they used to do, I don't know if they do it anymore, there's a Movie Co., a big movie theater that's like pretty much across the street from the hotel that this convention is at. They were showing all these movies over there, and there's a bar in the movie theater. And I was getting a beer, an Oktoberfest, nonetheless.
Ooh, early, huh?
Sam Adams Oktoberfest, actually.
Nice.
And Sean Clark was at the bar, and he was going to order a beer. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'll get you a beer. Oh, I think it was after the movie. It was after the movie, because I was like, oh, it's a great movie. And me and him and another guy, like another fan, stood around and talked, kind of how we did with Amy Steele, just shot the shit for like probably a good 15, 20, 30 minutes. Cool. Didn't talk about anything in particular, kind of the same thing like with Amy Steele, just talking, just having a conversation. It was really cool. After last weekend, we drove home, and after I dropped you off, I took this like long back roads way home. I went up like 173, and I went through all these old towns and stuff that I used to go all the time when I was a little kid. And I was like probably like an hour into the drive home, and I was like, we just hung out with frickin' Amy Steele, dude. That's frickin' cool.
Yeah, it was very surreal. So yeah, she was pretty much the highlight of the convention for sure, which wasn't, it's funny because I actually was leaning more towards Adrienne King for the autograph. I was actually thinking, I was listening to some interviews on YouTube of her. Yeah, it's the first final girl, I might as well go and I was reading about some of her backstory and stuff, but I don't know, it was just fate to actually go and like chat with Amy Steele, because
Flashback Weekend for me was a huge success, even though I didn't drop a dime. Doesn't feel like a cheapskate, but
it was excellent, absolutely awesome. I've only been to 2 of them now, but it's like, oh, I just can't wait for next year.